Hello, my name is Andrew, you can call me Cookies, and today we'll be taking a look at getting started in Mythic Plus content as a Restoration Druid. This guide is aimed towards players brand new to Restoration Druid and or Mythic Plus as a whole, so we will be taking a detailed look into the Druid's class abilities as well as general advice on how to correctly utilize the class in Mythic Plus content. Restoration Druids are great at handling difficult healing situations in dungeon content, if they're prepared. Mastering the Restoration Druid is all about learning how to predict enemy damage patterns so that you can ready yourself before your party actually ends up taking damage. This will naturally come with practice, but the more you understand about the dungeons themselves, the easier time you will have eventually learning and mastering the Restoration Druid's toolkit. So, to make things easy to understand, I'm going to separate all the Restoration Druid spells into 5 categories, and then go over what each of them do and how to properly utilize them in a Mythic Plus setting. First off, we have our sustained healing spells. These include spells like Efflorescence, Life Bloom, and Rejuvenation. The basis of these spells is to have Efflorescence active at all times on the most amount of players possible, so be sure to keep placing it down when it's close to expiring or when your group ends up walking out of it. Life Bloom should be kept on the tank at all times and should be refreshed 3 to 5 seconds before it ends up falling off, while Rejuvenation should be refreshed and upkept on nearly all party members while you kind of familiarize yourself with Resto Druid as a whole, and once you get better at understanding of when damage is going to happen, you can better choose who specifically to be refreshing and upkeeping Rejuvenation on. Next up, our burst healing spells contain the following spells: Regrowth, Swift Mend, Wild Growth, and Tranquility. Regrowth is a quick casting single target burst heal that leaves a small heal over time effect on the player it was targeted on. This spell should be used on party members who have dropped some hit points and need to be picked up very quickly. Also, as an added tip, the more active heal over time effects you have on a player, the more healing this and any other spell will do, making this a great spammable heal for your tank. Swift Mend should be used in place of Regrowth when you don't have enough time to cast Regrowth to pick up your injured party member's health. This is your emergency uh-oh button, and it has a 25-second cooldown, so feel free to use it when you need it. Wild Growth is a 10-second cooldown that serves as a nice AoE heal that will help you heal when multiple party members are taking damage. While Tranquility is a channeled ability, meaning that while you cast it, you cannot move or cast any other spell without cancelling it. But in turn, it provides a huge amount of AoE healing, so use it in those clutch moments where you really need to get the party topped off. Although we assume the healing role in our party, in Mythic Plus dungeons, having the healer help out with DPS greatly increases your success in making sure you complete the dungeon in time. In order to do damage as a healer, you need to learn and understand when there is downtime or certain moments in a dungeon where you can start helping out with DPS. Most of this concept is not worth trying to practice until you're more comfortable with healing Mythic Plus dungeons in the first place. So we will go over this style of play in more detail in a future video. So with that being said, the spells considered as damage spells are Cat Form, Moonfire, Sunfire, and Wrath. Cat Form is used in a Mythic Plus dungeon playstyle known as Cat Weaving, which is a more complicated way of helping deal damage in dungeons, but very useful and used to push really high keys where making the timers tough without every ounce of DPS that you can provide. So we will save talking about it for a later video. Moonfire and Sunfire work very similarly in that they are a damage over time effect applied to the target. For starters, getting used to these spells and maintaining them throughout each encounter in a dungeon will help you get in the habit and the flow of dealing damage during the downtime where healing is not required, so try to apply these dots as often as possible. Wrath is another easy to use spammable damaging ability with a short cast time, so bind it to something easy to press and just spam it on bosses or mobs whenever you have Moonfire and Sunfire already applied and there's not much healing to be done to the group. Now we'll be taking a look at our defensive spells, which include 3 spells: Barkskin, Ironbark, and Bearform. Barkskin is a personal cooldown we can use to reduce our own damage taken by 20% and is usable while stunned, So be sure to use this whenever you find yourself taking too much damage to heal through, or if you need to focus your healing on party members and don't want to worry about healing yourself for a moment. Iron Bark, like Bark Skin, reduces all damage taken by 20%, but is usable on ourselves or our party members. Typically you will be using this on the tank when they are taking high amounts of damage, but feel free to use our Iron Bark on anyone who needs it, as it is only a 1-minute cooldown, making it super easy to use many times throughout the dungeon. Bear Form is extremely useful when you are about to take a burst of damage that you don't think you can survive. Be aware though that you cannot cast healing spells while in Bear Form, so be quick to jump out of Bear Form after the damage has gone through so that you can get back to healing your party members. So now we'll be taking a look at our utility spells, which include Entangling Roots, Innervate, Nature's Cure, Rebirth, Soothe, and Ursul's Vortex. Entangling Roots allows you to target an enemy, rooting them in place for 30 seconds, which can be very useful when there are a lot of enemies in a trash pack and you want to keep one of them from entering the fight. Be aware that using this on a ranged creature will not really help, as they can still cast spells and attack from range if they have the ability to do so. Innervate is a spell you target on yourself, which makes all spells that you cast within the next 12 seconds have no mana cost. Great for when you're out of mana and need to keep healing, or just when you want to save some mana so that you aren't running out later on throughout the fight. Nature's Cure is the Restoration Druid's Cleanse ability, which allows us to remove all magic, curse, and poison effects from our target. Super useful for many of the debuffs that you're going to find within Mythic Plus dungeons. Rebirth is a quick casting resurrection that you can use in combat to pick up dead party members. Unless it's yourself, then you're in trouble. Soothe has become one of the most useful spells in Battle for Azeroth dungeons, as many mobs have enrage effects that increase their damage done significantly. All you have to do is target them, cast Soothe, and their increased damage is no more. Last up for our utility spells, Ursul's Vortex creates a zone on the floor wherever we target it that will pull enemies in when they run out from it. Very useful for humanoids that run away at low HP or mobs that fixate on party members. So that covers all our default spells that we will have access to as a Restoration Druid. Now it's time to take a look at what we should be using as our default talent build when going into Mythic Plus content. In the next part of this series, we will be taking a detailed look at all of our talent options as a Restoration Druid, and talk about when there is opportunity to use alternative talents to the default build that we see here. Starting off with our level 15 talent, Abundance is our go-to choice as it causes our regrowth to be more effective and costs less mana for each rejuvenation we have active on the party. Next up, Tiger's Dash takes up our level 30 talent slot as a nice boost to our movement for when we need to be a fast boy. For level 45, we will be taking Guardian Affinity, as it adds even more defensive power to our bear form, as well as gives us a passive 6% damage reduction whether we are in or out of bear form. Mighty Bash will be our next choice at level 60, giving us a way to single target stun enemies that are causing problems for our group from casting spells or just moving around. And Cultivation at level 75 will give us a nice passive bonus to our healing that we don't need to really worry about. Whenever a player with Rejuvenation on them drops below 60% health, Cultivation will apply a nice heal over time effect on them to get them topped off even quicker. At level 90, Spring Blossom takes up a spot on our talents as another nice passive that increases the amount of healing Efflorescence does by applying a heal over time effect to anyone standing within it. And last but certainly not least, at level 100, Photosynthesis is the MVP talent as yet again another amazing passive that makes our Life Bloom become an absolute powerhouse of a heal when it is on the tank. So be sure to keep Life Bloom up on them to maximize its effectiveness. So that I don't spend too much time on the detail and overwhelming amount of options for Azerite traits as well as gear and stat options, you want to focus primarily on item level. Anything that is higher item level will generally be an upgrade when it comes to gear. If you have any gear that's the same item level, you'll want to go for gear that has more haste or mastery on it for healing Mythic Plus. For Azerite traits, Grove Tending, Archive of the Titans, Insight the Pack, and Trade Winds are all A+ choices to go for, and if you don't have access to those traits, I have a link in the description of the video that will go into more detail of which traits are the best to use outside of the ones that I've listed. As far as trinkets go for gear, again, item level will play the biggest role as long as it's just a trinket with intellect on it. But some good trinkets to aim for should be the Ignition Mage's Fuse from Tol Dagor, the Conch of Dark Whispers from Shrine of the Storm, the Fangs of Intertwined Essence from Temple of Sethralis, and Lion's Grace or Doom's Howl if you're Horde, from the Warfront world boss that is available every few weeks. Now that we have gone over our spells, our default talent choices, and our general gearing guidelines as a Resto Druid, it is time to get some practice and come back with more to learn as we take a more detailed look into our potential as a Resto Druid in Mythic Plus. The next part of this series will be all about our talent choices, gearing options, Azerite traits, DPS rotations, and useful interactions and tricks that we can use to best optimize our healing in dungeon content. I hope this video helped you out, and I look forward to hearing your feedback and seeing what else you will learn in the next video to come. If you enjoyed this content and want to see more videos like this posted, I plan to make a multitude of guides focused around the different healing classes in World of Warcraft, so subscribe and let other healers that you know about the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Ciao!